I presume we're live, so hello everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Clean Aviation webinar. We're going to start in just a minute. Just let a few more people filter through. Feel free to populate your name, job title in the chat. We want to get you people to know each other. It's going to be very important for what we're talking about today. So feel free to do that just while we hang on a few minutes, and then we'll kick off. Okay, shall we make a start then? So, welcome everybody. My name is Chris Lowe. I work for the Technology Institute. I am responsible for international relations here. I'm joined by my colleagues, George Kipioranu-Hickman, also of the ATI, and Louise Mothersole, who is the national contact point for Innovate UK. The purpose of this webinar is to just provide some preliminary information about the upcoming calls, so call 4 of Clean Aviation, which is due to be launched in a couple of months, as well as some additional content that you can access funding through for aviation topics within the wider Horizon Europe programme. As we go through, please do use the chat function. Maintain on mute if you can. I appreciate this is a webinar. If you have any questions, we will try and endeavour to answer those as we go through the conversation, and we will also have some time at the end where we can address some of those. So welcome. I'm glad to have you with us, and I will pass on to Louise to kick us off.
Hi everybody. I don't think you can see me because I'm the one doing the slide sharing, so do excuse that. My email address is there. I'd like anybody and everybody who knows me or doesn't know me to take a note of the email address, because my role as the Horizon Europe UK National Contact Point for Mobility is to be your friend on your journey into Horizon Europe. I'll explain a little bit more about what that means. So, as a European Union, Horizon Europe national contact point, I'm a member of Innovate UK, but my role is not neutral. Most of the people in Innovate UK, when they're talking about UK funded programmes, they have to be very neutral. I don't. I'm biased. I'm on our team. I'm on your team. My job is to help you get the money, to help you understand what the programme is, find the right competition, find the partners, develop your proposal, anything I can do. So I cover the entirety of the mobility, so transport sector. So yes, aerospace and aviation. Also, trains, cars, buses, ships, all of that's down to me. I've got colleagues that work in things like the materials sector that might be of interest to some of you, or the digital sector, or the energy sector. So we've got a whole team of us, and our role is to, as I said earlier, to help you any way I can. The big purple button there will help you find my equivalent in other countries, because the job I do in the UK, there's one of me in Italy, France, Germany, Spain, and we know each other quite well, and we work together as well. So if you're not from the UK, you can find your own country national contact point when you get these slides through the big pink / purple button. Just for those of you who are not familiar, this is what Horizon Europe looks like in its entirety. It's a 7-year programme. It began in 2021, and the last competitions will launch in 2027. Unlike the UK programmes, when projects launch, they continue to completion regardless of the budget cycle. So although the last competition might be in 2027, the projects may not finish till 2030, 2031, 32, etc., however long the project needs to be. You can see we're split into 3 pillars here. I'm not going to talk about Pillar 1, Excellent Science, because that's primarily the academic community. I'm not going to talk about Pillar 3, Innovative Europe, because although I'm sure there are people here who are very relevant into that, as it's the entrepreneurial community, I'm not going to talk about it today, because what we're talking about today is specifically within the mobility part of Cluster 5 of Pillar 2. And this is where we find the clean aviation and other aviation calls for proposals. So the UK is fully eligible to be part of all Horizon Europe programmes. We are an associated country, and that means that the UK government, and this is under the Rishi Sunak government, have agreed to join Horizon Europe and pay so that UK organisations can get involved in projects on a level playing field with those from the EU. So UK organisations are fully eligible to be the leader of projects. This is called coordinator in Horizon Europe. So this is in all of the transport projects. There is no prohibition whatsoever in the aerospace or the clean aviation. UK organisations are classed as one of the minimum needed for a consortium. There always has to be at least 3 different legal entities from 3 different eligible countries, and UK is absolutely one of those. If you're successful and you win your funding, then you will be funded directly from the EU, not from the UK, not from UKRI, not from Innovate UK, not from ATI. You will get your money in euros, not pounds. So the UK is not the only associated country. I needed to have updated these slides because we're now on 21 countries. So Canada is a very active participant. They're an associated country. They have won significant Horizon Europe funding, just like the UK has. New Zealand haven't been as successful yet, nor South Korea, but their time perhaps is yet to come. So all of those associated countries, like the UK, are fully eligible for Horizon Europe funding in clean aviation. Clean aviation is absolutely part of Horizon Europe. So just a quick word about the clean aviation joint undertaking. So just explain what this means. Clean aviation is what's called an institutional partnership. It has existed in different formats previously. So before Horizon Europe, because it began in 2021, before Horizon Europe, there was a programme called Clean Sky 2. And then before Clean Sky 2, there was a programme called Clean Sky. So this is the 3rd iteration of this joint undertaking. So this is an institutional partnership, which means it's a partnership between the European Union and the private members. And it's a legal entity with its own right. It's got offices, it's got employees. The partnership, the joint undertaking, manage the programme. They determine what the calls for proposals will be, and they manage the delivery of the projects that come from them. They don't do the evaluation, though. They don't get to do the who gets funded. That's very firmly done independently. So the joint undertaking officers do all of the management of the programme, though, once the competition is over. So the calls for proposals, when you get these slide deck, you'll see the links, and they're all published on the EU Funding and Tender Opportunities portal. This is the EU's version of IFS, except it's much bigger. Everything they buy comes through here, all of their research and all of their tenders. So do make sure you're just looking for the right part of it. Anything there for the Horizon Europe and for clean aviation is fully open to non-members of the joint undertaking. So just because there are members, that those members have made a financial commitment, and they get some say in what the programme is going to deliver, but they don't get any ring-fenced funding. None of the funding from clean aviation is ring-fenced for anybody, other than in this new call for proposals, in this 4th call for proposals, 15% of every project will be going to small, medium enterprises or academics. And if a consortia doesn't have that 15% participation of those organisations, then it will be deemed ineligible and not be evaluated. So if you're from academia or from a small, medium enterprise, these guys in Horizon Europe, in the Clean Aviation Joint Undertaking, will be looking for you because they need you in their consortium. So I would suggest you all, if clean aviation is something you're very interested in, sign up to their newsletter as well to hear about forthcoming opportunities. Not just the one that we're talking about today. So there's three key thrusts around the Clean Aviation Programme. This is one of them. It's a bit of an old slide I've had in for a while. Chris is going to talk about the programme in detail in a moment, so I'll just gloss over this and skip past it, and then Chris can tell you a little bit more about the specific calls for proposal and how it fits in with those three key thrusts this time around. But now I've spelt these out in full, these links. I'm going to suggest you take a screenshot of this right now. And I want you to take, why I've taken this, want you to take a screenshot is that there is a deadline to apply today to be part of their Pitch and Connect event. So they've got this Pitch and Connect event on the, I think it's not happening until February, but today is the last day to apply for a place in that if you want to be able to tell people why they should have you in their consortium. You won't have to say why now, you just have to apply for a place in that now. So take a screenshot of this, and as soon as this event, as we've finished on this webinar, type in that cleanaviation.eu call for networking event Pitch Connect and reserve your place or request a place. I expect they will be oversubscribed. I'm hoping you will get a go if you put your application straight away. So the top bullet there is their launch when they had a press release, 330 million thereabouts, available in EU funding. And if you're a small medium enterprise from the UK and you want to attend that Pitch and Connect event, then we can offer you £750 towards the travel to go to that. The deadline to apply for that is tomorrow. So again, if you're an SME, click on that link, or rather take a screenshot now and type that whole thing in and apply for that travel award. We're only able to offer grants to 4. So make sure you make a strong case. The case you need to make is that you want to attend this Pitch and Connect specifically to meet partners for consortia for clean aviation call for. And that's the reason why you can have those grants. So I think you've had enough time to take those screenshots. Hopefully you've got that in the bag. Moving on. Well, I want my slides to move on. Bear with me. There we go. I'll hand back over to Chris and he will tell you a little bit more about the topics. Topic is an EU word for competition. So this is where you're going to get the detail, some of the preliminary detail of the topics. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Louise. So that's very helpful. So as we've said, it's very important that we get engaged within the clean aviation now. A little note about how the programme itself compares to perhaps some of the national programmes funded through the UK, including the ATI. Clean aviation is slightly different. It is an impact-driven programme instead of a technology bottom-up driven program. So the way it organizes itself is around these 3 conceptual aircraft that cover ultra efficient regional aircraft, 2 hydrogen powered aircraft. So that is about burning hydrogen directly in the gas turbine, and it's also about fuel cell concepts. And then an ultra efficient short and medium range aircraft, which is essentially your next generation single aisle. You can see the targets that are listed below there, and how the programme organises itself can be clearly articulated and understood through what they call the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, which is essentially their strategy. As I say, the way they organise themselves, it's quite helpful, and what we'll go through in a minute is the calls that they've published. you actually respond to the calls that are being articulated in terms of what they want. So it's different from how in the ATI program, for example, that you develop your own proposal, apply that, that's assessed. This is actually you're responding to a call. As Louise has mentioned, we have total budget of 329.5 million for this call for. That's across 18 topics, and there are some interesting opportunities, particularly in this round of calls, which perhaps haven't existed in previous goes. So if we could just move the slide on, Louise. Sorry, I might have a little bit of a delay. So yes. So how is it structured? So I mentioned the sort of three core conceptual aircraft. So within each of those thrusts, and that's how the terminology that Clean Aviation uses, thrusts, there are calls that are associated to ultra-efficient regional aircraft, hydrogen-powered aircraft, and the short, medium range, the SMR. In addition to that, there are what we have in terms of transversal projects and support actions and fast track areas. Now, these have slightly different and nuanced roles. The transversal projects sit across some of these the wider platforms. So we'll go through some examples, but where there are an opportunity to evaluate the technology across different projects, such as looking at different hybrid systems in the ultra-efficient regional aircraft, whether it's to be actually just to support the wider ecosystem and linking in with organizations like the Alliance for Zero Emission Aviation, which is focusing on hydrogen and how to get sort of the supply, the energy demand understood, and how that relates to the technology that's been developed directly within the clean aviation projects. And secondly, there are the fast track areas. Now, fast track areas were only introduced recently at the last call, but they are specifically to accelerate different technologies not covered in the main programs that can help and enhance the ambitions to meet those targets that were presented on the last slide. Most of what clean aviation focuses on is all gathering to pace towards maturing the technology to technology readiness level 6, so TRL 6 by the end of the program. And also there is a sister sort of scale called the certification readiness level that you need to be conscious of, which we'll discuss shortly. So Louise, if you could just forward on a slide. Perfect. So here you can see the clean aviation timeline. So Louise has already mentioned that there were two programs that preceded this. This is just focused on this portion of the program. So clean aviation, it was launched in 2022. We've had 3 calls in what's called phase 1. So this was really developing the concepts and the technology options. We've since then, as of last year, moved into what's called phase 2. So phase 2 is all about accelerating the technology maturation through integrated demonstration. Now, as we go through some of the calls later on, it will be quite clear that there is a lot of activity here, which is preparing for ground testing, preparing for some of the rigs, even in some cases preparing for flight testing, which will be undertaken under the Clean Aviation Programme. These projects will formally close around 2030. So that's when the actual projects will close, not the program. There is likely to be a new version or iteration of support for aerospace until then, around the 2028 thing, but we don't actually know what that is yet. But the projects themselves, which we have 2 coming up, which are dedicated in call 4, which is the one we're talking about here, and then next year in call 5, will formally close out by 2030. So that is the deadline for achieving these. Move a slide on, Louise. Perfect, thank you. So I mentioned certification readiness levels. So this was a new project that was actually, a lot of the work was undertaken in what was called Concerto, which was a project launched in call 1. And it's the idea that we need to be able to help the regulators along the technology journey. So particularly when you focus on hydrogen programs, there's not a lot of knowledge and expertise within the regulators themselves, because this is a novel technology. So in terms of the way that you'll have to manage the development of the technology, you're not only thinking from a TRL scale, you also need to think in terms of a CRL. So any project that you are part of as part of clean aviation, you also need to make a case to build up to CRL 6 as part of that technology development program. So it's working directly with people in EASA, directly with the larger companies who have been part of the programs before. But this is something you need to turn your mind to. There's a link later in here, and indeed there will be a link when you get the pack sent to the Consortia project, which details exactly what the methodology that sits behind all of these points later on. So do bear that in mind, that all clean aviation projects have this requirement to produce the CRL levels. So Louise, if you could just forward us again. So previous clean aviation calls and projects. Next slide, Louise, sorry. Perfect, thank you. So what we've tried to do to demonstrate, and I won't go into a lot of detail specifically, but when you get these slides, the first thing to say, there will be a link. So all of these icons link to more information. Now, what we want to do is demonstrate how the links through these calls, and I mentioned in call 1 and call 2 earlier at the start, were more about identification of technology programs, whereas call 3 and now going into call 4 is about how these have been matured and integrated, because that is one of the main outcomes of clean aviation objectives, is the integration of these technologies. So when you see some of the information that we're going to present on call 4 and is detailed in the preliminary documents, it's worth looking at how they link back to what has happened, and importantly, who. So on this slide, we've got the lead projects, the lead companies that are administering the projects, but actually most of these will have multiple organizations, universities, RTOs associated to them. There's been a lot of UK companies involved. So when you get those, it's worth having a link back into the previous projects and what's been done before, so then you know who to talk to, and you can perhaps have a step up. And if you've got a bright idea and you can see where it fits in to call for topics, then you can start to identify who are the right people to talk to, get you in that consortia. So in terms of, the ultra efficient, the ultra efficient hybrid electric, that's obviously covering the regional concepts. So looking at propulsion, onboard systems, thermal electrical power distribution, new airframes, really progressing that from component system to TRLs to flight readiness. So there were a few projects there on the previous slide. The ultra efficient short medium range. So you can see here actually one of the big topics that clean aviation is trying to develop are the engines. So there are several very large engine programs. You have two ducted concepts which have been led by Rolls-Royce, and then also through Pratt & Whitney Canada, and then also there is the open fan, which is largely driven through this portion of the program by Safran, but also involves GE as well. You can see again the maturation of how the programs here have developed. So Rolls-Royce have taken some of their ultrafan concepts, trying to scale that down within the Heaven program. There was also links to making sure they were testing the engine and seeing its viability with hydrogen within that. That is now then going into call 3, where you've got unified, which is really starting to prepare the ground for ground demonstration of those technologies. Similarly with the open fan, there's been a lot of work historically within clean aviation to develop the open fan technology concepts. Ophelia, was launched and remains Clean Aviation's biggest project to date in Call 1. Now, Takeoff, which was in the latest call in Call 3, is preparing that for flight demonstration. So you can see the pathway through some of these calls. Similarly, just the other topics that aren't engine related in here, you've got Upwing, which is really sort of focusing on high aspect ratio wings, and then Avatar as well. So there'll be some content that's coming up in there. And really, these are geared towards the next generation single aisle. These are the big projects. Hydrogen-powered aircraft. So hydrogen wasn't involved in Call 4. However, there were a lot of projects that were involved in Call 1 and Call 2. Now, it's fair to say the reason why Call 3 didn't have any projects was because the ecosystem has essentially shifted. We know that some of the challenges and some of the, not necessarily related to the technology as well, but some of the wider ecosystem challenges needed to be resolved and understood slightly better. So there were a series of projects that were funded in Call 1, a lot around, as I mentioned earlier, direct combustion within the gas turbine itself, but also within a fuel cell concept. Secondly, there's also a lot of work, particularly in H2 Helios and flying tank around the actual hydrogen tanks themselves, as well as the fuel system. So a bit of a spoiler alert, there is a lot of content coming back into Call 4 around hydrogen, but it's worth looking through these previous projects, and there's a lot of detail that's been published around them as well, but also understanding who has been involved and what has been done before. So move to the next slide. So transversal projects. So I mentioned the transversal projects and support actions. They're kind of different. They sort of cover a lot. In Call 1, you had two projects, which is HERA, so Hybrid Electric Regional Aircraft Architecture and Technology Integration, and SMR ACAP. Those projects specifically were focusing on taking all of the technologies that were in the regional thrust and respectively the SMR thrust, and looking at that at an evaluation level. So that's where Airbus and Leonardo, and latterly it will be ATR as well, are taking all of the technologies that are developed within the clean aviation umbrella and broader and making those assessments. So that's sort of the operation of those. I mentioned Concerto earlier, which is all about the CRL level, so the certification level. So how are they working with EASA to provide the right regulatory environment and knowledge, and demonstrating that alongside through the technology maturation, that it's not a point of handing that sort of information over at the end of a project. It's working hand in hand as they go through. The bottom one in Call 1, ECARE, the European, European Clean Aviation Regional Ecosystem, that's actually worth looking into as a project that was set up a few years back and has a lot of information from various projects that are happening, not within Clean Aviation or the wider Horizon Europe program, but some from national levels. So you can have a look through and do some searches within the database itself and look at projects that have happened in France and Germany. You can do some keyword searches. They've also developed a dichotomy of terminology to using, so you can link through that and find the relevant partners and who's been working on what. Again, just moving forward, so you've got Clean Aviation Support and Impact for Monitoring, so CLAIM, that was looking at an evaluation of the technology as well and understanding how the impact is being made. So fast track areas. So these are slightly different, as I mentioned at the start. These are smaller, high impact enablers that speed up the maturation and broaden participation in participation to SMEs and RTOs. So that's very important. These aren't the big players that are responding to these. As you can see in call 3, which was when they were first launched, they're looking at power electronics, batteries, cryogenics, safety and impact methods. So you can see where they can fit into the other thrusts that were within clean aviation. And their raison d'etre is to rapidly de-risk the technology bricks and maturing that to TRLs 5, 6. So, as I say, the key takeaway from this, when you get these slides, you'll be able to have access to the background information, who's participating, what the actual projects are focusing on, and in some respects, for those that are coming to the end of their lifespan, what some of the results are. So, call 4. So the preliminary list of topics that we are looking at in terms of the next round of funding. So this is going to be your Bible. Again, as Louise said, take a screenshot and type in fourth call for proposals, preliminary list and description of topics. This is a very, very detailed document. This will provide you all of the information that you need to know to successfully apply to the projects. Now, as I said before, just make a note, learn how to link those back to the previous topics, but also talk to other people that are working on the same thing. As Louise mentioned, the pitch panel projects is a great opportunity to go and meet other people that are working on similar topics. These are collaborative calls. You need to be working with the right people. The competition, because the calls are very... there's only a few calls, as you can see here, is going to be very, very tight, but the best proposals will win. It is an open competition in that respect. As Louise mentioned, it's independently assessed. So you need to work with the right people and make sure that you are able to be able to get into those conversations. So here's the list. So as you can see, there's some big numbers here, 329 million euros worth of funding available across the 5 topics. It's the first time all 5 topics have had funding associated to them. There is 1 call in ultra-efficient regional aircraft, 4 calls in hydrogen-powered aircraft of up to £100 million, 3 big calls in SMR, 3 in transversal, and there are 8 fast track areas. So this is particularly if you're an SME, if you're an RTO, they are limited to 5 million euros each, but there is a lot more than there has been previously in this program. So definitely have a look, work out who your collaborators are and develop your consortia to build into those. So what I've got here, and I appreciate there's going to be a lot of words on these slides, so I will try and summarize as best as I can, but take these away. I've tried to just pull up a very short level summary for each project. Have a look at these, link back to that previous preliminary document that we shared, and then understand. So ultra efficient regional this time has 1 topic. It's worth 40 million euros. And as you can see there, it's the demonstration of advanced airframe for ultra efficient regional aircraft. So this is all about the wing, the fuselage, the empennage, the enabling systems, bringing that together. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of this is, as the program has been developing, is focusing on that integration. It's focusing on the demonstration of those technologies. So that is what we're looking at in terms of this for the hybrid electric ultra efficient regional aircraft. So there's just the 1 project that's available in this round of call, and again delivering the ground demonstrations to TRL6 by 2030. Next slide, Louise. So ultra efficient short medium range. So again, looking at really the technologies geared towards the next generation single aisle. So we have 3 topics, each with a fairly sizable amount of funding attached to it. But you will notice that in the last one there are actually 3 opportunities within that call. So the first topic all around demonstration of optimized systems and platform for the SMR aircraft. So that is, again, looking at the power, the data architectures and integration challenges around the high performance computing power and so on. Again, taken note of what the requirements are around TRL6, CRL4, and then finding out who those relevant partners are. Second one around demonstration of ultra efficient rear fuselage and empennage and its integration into the industrial system. So again, reading into that, you're looking really about the demonstration of these technologies and really the follow on. It's not just about the technology itself, but industrializing that. So when you've matured your technology, making sure that there are solutions in how to build that manufacturing rate up. And then finally, the ground demonstration of hybrid electric propulsion architectures. So again, developing and demonstrating hybrid electric propulsion systems, integrating the subsystems, and that is across both the ducted and unducted concepts. So you know who those engine manufacturers are. I mentioned them earlier. Make sure you're understanding how your technology or solution can feed into those and working with those customers. Next slide, Louise. Have it. So hydrogen powered aircraft. So I think hydrogen again is kind of one of the big winners in this call. We've seen not having any projects in call 3, it's back with force. There's about £100 million worth of funding available across 4 topics in this. So these topics are split over 2 slides. But the first one is all around the demonstration of advanced fuel cell propulsion and tech bricks for the fully electric fuel cell aircraft concept. And developing those components and subsystems. That is up to £50 million for one project. So that is a big project in itself. The second one around the demonstration and integration of hydrogen fuel system for fully electric hydrogen fuel cell aircraft. Again, around the demonstration, the integration, it's all around the same things. This is from the tank pressure management to distribution and conditioning for a fully electric hydrogen fuel cell aircraft. This is one project. It's worth 18 million euros, sorry. And then the third one just there, the demonstration of advanced low NOx hydrogen propulsion system for direct hydrogen combustion in the aircraft concept. So that is inside the engine itself and direct burn. And then finally, just on the next slide, we should have a project. There you go. Demonstration of a hydrogen distribution system for direct hydrogen combustion propulsion. So really looking at the fuel system in the round, and there is an intention to validate these critical components, including the pressure pumps, through to TRL5 ground demonstration. Again, one project is worth 18 million. Next slide, Louise. So transversal projects and support actions. So again, we have 3 topics here worth a total of 18.5 million euros at aircraft level integration and impact assessments for the hydrogen concepts. Icing certification methods is in there. And then finally, one which is around an operational stakeholders group for the deployment of clean aviation aircraft concepts and technologies. So as I mentioned earlier, that's really looking around how some of the getting a view of how the disruptive technologies developed under the clean aviation umbrella can be matured. And that's a smaller project that's only worth 500,000 euros. And that's one project. And then the other 2, so the top one around hydrogen powered aircraft concept and technologies integration and the impact assessment, 2 projects, 3 million euros each. And then demonstration and validation of the icing certification methodologies is one project up to 12 million euros. And then finally, if we move on to the fast track activities, so I mentioned there's 40 million pounds, 40 million euros worth. There's across 7 topics here, each worth 5 million euros. I think there is one that has 2 projects attached to it, which is why there's 8. But there's the demonstration of low power ice protection systems reaching TRL5. So this is really looking at demonstrating the low power ice protection system of the wing and empennage for hybrid electric ultra efficient aircraft. There's demonstration of cabin acoustic optimization technology. So that's mitigating cabin noise for hybrid electric ultra efficient regional aircraft. So you can see how these are feeding in to the hybrid electric regional aircraft platform. On SMR, you've got advanced noise reducing technologies for the propulsion systems. So again, working with the engine manufacturers, you've got the ultra high bypass ratio engine propulsion for SMR. How is your technology reducing noise and lightweighting some of the core components in there? Again, all of those 5 million euros. Key technologies for loads control and LiDAR for ultra efficient SMR. So developing the key LiDAR technologies. Again, just the one project. Cryo-cooled power electronics for fully electric hydrogen-powered aircraft. So again, some more hydrogen-related topics here, particularly around the motor development and power electronics. And then superconducting motor windings for fully electric fuel cell hydrogen-powered aircraft. And then finally, there should be one more slide on the fast track areas. There you are. So innovative, lightweight and reliable hydrogen tanks. So again, looking at reliable hydrogen tanks for the hydrogen concepts that are developed to take the design to TRL4. Perfect. So I think that's all of the topics. Again, advice. So as I say, Louise is an absolutely fantastic point of contact to have from a UK perspective. Just a few notes here. That you can submit questions directly to the Clean Aviation Programme Management, and there's an address there. That address is all related to the call for topics. The thing that is useful about that is questions will be analysed and then will be published. So last year in call 3, they published a list of questions that had been answered with the answers attached to them, so you could go and look and see what had been done. Louise has mentioned the pitch and panel session, so that's important. There's also an FAQ session will open when the call is formally published around 17th. And as I say, please do go and check all of the links, all of the information that's been provided within this webinar, because that is essentially what you'll need to understand to be successful. So I'm going to hand back to Louise now to talk about some of the wider topics in Horizon Europe.
Hi, thanks, Chris. Great overview of the detail there. But as you say, it's up to people to download that PDF document and go through it with a fine-tooth comb to understand exactly how they can interact and engage with each of those topics. But whilst I've got you guys on the call, there might be some aviation topics in other parts of Horizon Europe that are not clean aviation that I thought you might be interested in. So these are officially all low technology readiness level projects. So these ones are all funded at 100% of your eligible direct costs. No matter if you're a big business, small business, university, low TRL projects are 100% funded for everybody. That makes them quite attractive, even if they're smaller and there are a lot fewer of them. So moving my slides, if it will, excuse me, there we go. So this is just a quick summary chart of there's only one competition that's open at the moment. It opened on the 18th of December for a 14th of April submission. They're going to fund 2 projects, and this is around AI-assisted digital aircraft design, manufacturing and MRO. So it's competitive industrial processes they're looking for here. How can we improve the creation, the design and engineering around the new aircraft? So 2 of those will be funded. The Sustainable Aircraft Circular Design Additive Manufacturing towards Climate Neutral Aviation doesn't open until next year, but again, 2 projects will be funded, and it's already published. So although it's not until next year, you can start now thinking about who would be your consortium partners, start building those networks, making those contacts. Similarly, the noise reduction breakthroughs for new ultra-efficient aircraft, and assessing the effect of airport operations on air quality and noise as something else that's worth thinking about not just the clean aviation calls. There's these low technology readiness level ones here. I think that's one of the things we didn't mention is the funding rate for clean aviation. Because they're high technology readiness level, anybody who's a business will only be funded at 70% of your cost. Universities and not-for-profits are always funded at 100% of cost in Horizon Europe for all programmes, for all TRL levels. But if you are a business and you're doing high TRL projects, then you would only be funded at 70% of your costs, plus another 25% on top of that towards your overheads, so indirect costs, and that applies for all of Horizon Europe. I'm going to stop sharing my slides now and we can go to any questions you might have.
Thanks,
You
Louise.
see, we've got some in the Q&A.
Yes, there was one which was asking about the slides. So as I say, the slides will be circulated. You'll be able to access all of the links that we've spoken about there. I haven't seen any other specific questions.
Nothing from anybody? You're all happy? You're all going to go and first of all, today, as soon as you finish on here, go and register for that Pitch and Connect event. Hopefully you've all got the details for that, and that will give you an opportunity to be in Brussels, to meet in person the people from the joint undertaking and each other who are looking for consortium partners. The event itself will happen on Friday the 13th, hopefully not unlucky for some. Friday the 13th of February is when that Pitch and Connect event will happen in Brussels. Similarly, if you are a small business, you can apply for a travel grant to attend that. The closing date for that application to attend that is tomorrow. So if you're going to try to get those travel grants, please do register for that now. I'm going to stick the link to the travel awards and then the pitchathon, the Pitch and Connect, whatever we're calling it, in the chat now so that you've got it. Just bear with me and I'll find the link to the Pitch and Connect. There it is. It's not coming with the full HTML for some reason. Let me just try that again. You might have to just Google it. I'm sure it'll come up. Let me try it. And hopefully you got it in the slide deck anyway. Oh, there we go.
Perfect.
I see there's something up in the Q&A, is there? No, we got more. Yeah.
Yeah, still no
That's
questions.
Okay.
But,
well, hopefully you've got our contact details as well now, and you can contact either Chris if you want to know about the technical content or me about the process. And that's really how we split our responsibility. I'm no expert in aerospace. I'm the expert in Horizon Europe processes. So you want to talk about specific aerospace opportunities and aviation, then that's where Chris can help you.
Yeah, and I guess just another plug to Louise as well. If you are interested and you are planning on bidding and accessing some of the funding that we've spoken about today, do let Louise know because she can help you in terms of the applications and give some advice.
Yep, happy to help. Is that it then? Are we done? You all good, guys? This is your last chance. Stick your hand up, speak, put in something in the chat, anything?
Sorry, there is. Yeah, there's one question which asks if the Pitch and Connect event is with likely project leaders.
They will be there and they will be sent the information. So this was we can't guarantee that the consortium leads, but I think that there will be somebody from each of the key thrust areas, absolutely. Okay, there is also going to be an information day, I think the following week, but that's going to be online only. So, and it will be recorded. So that will be, I think, the day after the pitch, sorry, the Monday after the pitchathon, the pitch, an event. But you'll see that if you click on the link to the Pitch and Connect event, there will be different breakout sessions for the different areas and those sorts of things. Okay. Thank you very much, George and Chris, for organising this.
No, thank you. And say you've got contact details, so do get in touch if there are any questions after we've closed this webinar. We look forward to seeing continued UK success within clean aviation and the wider Horizon Europe programme.
Absolutely. Just to let you know, the UK wins more than 10% of the available funding on so far. I'm hoping to get up to 15%. That would be good. So far, to date, we've been well over 10%, sometimes 11, 12%. So that's at least 30 something million coming our way. I'd like to see it to be 40, 50 million this time. Great. Thanks a lot all. Bye.
Perfect. Take care. Bye.